Hey guys, so in this tutorial we'll go about adding our enrollments to our students detail page. Now, an enrollment, if you recall, in our database comprises a student ID and a course ID. This serves to link a student to a course, which means that you'll have many students being linked to many courses. The objective behind this is to ensure that when we click on the details page of a student, we will see that this student is currently actively enrolled in XYZ courses. Now, as a quick recap, we know that we did our scaffolding exercise for our students, and so we can create a new one, edit, view details, and delete. Now, if I click the details button, it will trigger a call to our action in our students controller. I set a breakpoint and I'm currently in debug mode, and we just want to take a look at the object that comes back when we click details. So we're going to fetch a student, and the ID that was passed in was 2002. And we can see that one was fetched because we did not get back an empty object. Now, when we look in this object, we'll see that we have first name, last name, middle name, and we also have two enrollments. So this student is currently associated with two courses in our enrollments table. I'm going to quickly come out of debug mode and we take a look at our database to validate that claim. So in my Object Explorer, I'm just going to right click, course, and look at data. And here we have three courses: Introduction to C#, Data Mining, Calculus. And in enrollment, we can see that we have student with the ID 2002 enrolled to both courses with IDs 2 and 3. I'm not going to commit those to memory, and obviously showing this to a human really does not work. So now we're going to see how Entity Framework makes it easy for us to data bind and display data that is not directly in our table inside of our view. So here we have our details view for the student, and I'm just going to add some information to it. So I'm just going to say student details, and I'll leave everything else as is. And underneath this last dynamic link tag, I'm going to start populating it with some code that is going to generate a table showing all of the enrollments for this student. Now, this table is going to look rather similar to the one that we're used to from our index page. If you recall, our index page has a table. It has a top row with some headers, and then it has a piece of code that is generating rows and columns based on the data coming back inside that model. Now, we do have a model being passed into our details page, but unlike our index page, it is not a collection. It does, however, have a collection property in it in the form of enrollments, which is what we just saw in debug mode in our students controller. So we're going to go about creating a table that will furnish rows and columns based on the data coming back from our enrollments collection. The first thing we need is our table. And since we're using Bootstrap, we can quickly make this table look attractive by just adding a few table classes. So I say table, and then I want it to be condensed as well as responsive. Next, we generate our topmost row, which will have our table headers. So for our table headers, I want the course title, and I'm just going to Control D and duplicate these, and I would like the credits. I'm not sure if I need to, so I will remove this. Next up, we want to utilize our Razor view and start dynamically generating rows according to what comes back in our enrollments property. So I'm going to use my @ and write the word for each. Open that up, and we want var something. I can call it enrollment in, and then we have a keyword in C# called model. Now this keyword embodies whatever data comes back inside of this model. And it starts with a capital M. So I'm going to write capital M model dot, and we're going to see our enrollments, which if we look at the data type carefully, we see it is a collection type. So for each of these, I'm going to generate a row, so tr, and in this row, I want 2 columns. And I'm just going to duplicate that. Inside this column, I always say that I don't like printing text without a tag. So I'm just putting whatever is going to go into this column inside of a p tag. And then I can just directly reference the enrollment using my @ enrollment, which is now my object of type enrollment. So an enrollment object will furnish the course ID, enrollment ID, the grade, the student, and the student ID. So I'm going to say course. Since I want the course title, I have to get it from the course object. So I go into the course object, then use my dot operator once again, and then I will be able to get the title. I'll do the same for the next one, and I will add enrollment dot course dot credits. At the end of this exercise, what we will have is a table being generated with all of these attributes with 2 columns, one for course title, one for credits, and all of the related data for human readability. So we can go ahead and go into debug mode and see our work. Now when our page loads, we can see quite clearly the fruits of our labor. We have our table with our headers, and we have human readable data being displayed. So instead of displaying just the IDs, and instead of me having to go and write inner joins to get the actual data, Entity Framework made it quite easy for us to just call on the data on demand. Now, I left out a column because the student knows what they're enrolled in, but they do not know their grades. So I'm just going to head back over to Visual Studio and modify our view. And I'm going to add a column for grades. So I duplicated credits, and I'm just going to say grades or grade. And then I'm going to add another column inside this row, which is going to have the corresponding grade data. Now, grade is inside of the enrollment model. So once I say enrollment, then I'll have the property grade. So I don't need to go into student or go into course. I can just get grade right there from enrollment. I'll save this, refresh, and we will see our changes. And there we go. So this student is fresh. They haven't gotten any grades as yet, but they see what courses they're doing, and anybody who stumbles upon their profile will also see what courses they are doing. So this is a really quick way to get additional data into your view. I hope you understand the concept, and once you have a relationship, you can either call on the collection of related data or call directly on the related data. So you can go ahead and scaffold an enrollment situation and start creating enrollments where you associate students with courses, and you can view the details of the enrollment with the course details as well as the student details. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good one.